Why is it that every time marriage comes up, we got to talk about divorce? If men want to be married, be married. Don't be divorced. Definitely agree with it. I get so sick of it. I want to be married, but divorce. Okay, so those are two different subjects. And now you have to shut up talking to me. So anyway, um, I want us to realize that the numbers for what happens in divorce are going to change. These numbers have been very like male leaning because men have been making most of the money all of these years. I think that we're going to see a trend of that kind of like not so much male leaning anymore. It's still going to be mostly men losing things, but the numbers are going to dwindle because women have more now. Also, I want people to realize how things really work in divorce from a person that is divorced. I got the house, but I also had to pay him money for this house because he owned half of it. He had to get half of the equity. Like, let's not act like women are just getting houses. She got the house. Yes, you got money. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I don't know what it is about men's brains, and I'm not talking about y'all on the panel. These men that live in this fantasy land about what happens in divorce. I don't know what turns off because men's supposed to be logical. That's a whole other conversation. Something clicks and like doesn't work anymore. If that woman gets the house, you got some money. Unless you made a bad investment. See, my grandfather taught me how to make a good investment in a house. You never buy a house you can't make money off of. So immediate equity as soon as I moved in, because I'm smart. Now, and in that case, that man got money. So we're not having an honest conversation because unfortunately, men like to play the victim. These men that live in this fantasy land about divorce, they love being a victim. And so I'm gonna let y'all have it, but I know how divorce really works. So y'all want to say I'm losing at life. But I have the facts on divorce by lived experience.
So, Bo, not to kill your whole joint, but do you feel like that's like a little bit dismissive? No.
What do you mean? How?
The last part that you just said, you'll let y'all have it. Y'all have you're saying you have a fantasy. I know you're really big on listening to people, right? So when men have gripes, I think it's important to actually listen to it, right? And instead, I felt like it was just completely dismissed. I could be the only one, but I don't know. It just sounded relatively dismissive to me, not me personally, but just as a
Yeah.
man listening to that verbiage, it absolutely felt dismissive, as if we're delusional about what's happening or the hurt that men actually feel. Like if people are being vulnerable and saying, you know what, this is men are actually using their voices now and voicing their gripes, and it's being dismissed. And this is what women often describe. But when we, if you return the same energy, how can we get any place, right? That was absolutely dismissed. It's like it's not to the point where we're acting like this is happening or we believe that this is happening. But a lot of men are actually being hurt by it, being crushed by it. The main thing is, my point is not to say women are bad, none of that stuff. It's just about men have to be careful to who they marry to, because the divorce, we mentioned divorce because it happens pretty much about half the time. When you start taking those statistics and you apply it to anything else that you do in life, like the example I made before, if half the time people are going to fail, it's very possible. You go outside and you say, look, there's a 50% chance I'm going to crash today. you probably ain't going outside. Half of them are going to fail. So all I'm saying is that people need to be prepared. Don't rush into marriage. Vet the person. Be very careful because you will likely regret it if you don't. There's a lot of men who are hurt by these things, man. And some women are opportunists. I don't think the young ladies on the panel tonight are, but a lot of women who I've encountered were absolute opportunists. When I first got into the game and I decided to, you know, treat women how I was taught to, burnt out, burnt out. Me being genuine, burnt out. And it didn't make me jaded. I still was able to get married later on and all that stuff, but it could have. And I went through a phase where, I returned some of that energy. So all I'm saying is that we have to listen to some of these, and it's only in the name of coming up with solutions, not as far as, because it doesn't matter. We could talk to each other about it so we're blue in the face, but if we could come up with reasonable things, just actionable things that we can actually do to say, look, this is how we could solve it. Maybe and some of it is going to be what we could do better. And I think that most of us are open to that too.
Can I respond real quick?
Go, yeah, go ahead, boy. Real. You think?
So, yeah.
So uh when you explained how I was being dismissive, I can agree with that, but I wasn't. I was talking about the men who it wouldn't affect very heavily, right? And the men who don't know how divorce works. So I'm not dismissing all men. I'm not dismissing the valid fears of men. I'm talking about the men that actually do live in a fantasy land. Nothing has happened to them. They ain't got nothing. There's the drywall is barely hanging on, but they talking about somebody gonna come take their house. So those are the men that I'm talking about. So I agree, because at first I was like, huh? Because I wasn't talking about all men. Um, so that's it. I can agree with you. It did sound dismissive once you explained it.
I just wanted to dispel the idea because I hear a lot of people say it all the time of like, oh, but y'all thinking about who y'all marrying, but like, like, but when you come to having kids, y'all have sex with people and all, like, those are not at all even reasonably on the same plane. You don't have a biological motive to get married at all. You don't. But you have to fight every day to stop your senses from making you have sex with people. Like if you're trying to be disciplined, you have to be disciplined to not have sex, right? You don't have to be disciplined to not get married. Getting married is a process. You have to have a wedding. You have to find a woman. You have to get on one knee. You have to buy a ring. You have to, like, it's so much. You have to plan the wedding. You have to plan the proposal. Like, you don't fall into getting married, right? Versus we're human beings. We eat, we breathe, we use the bathroom, and we are supposed to be having sex with each other. It just is what it is. That's just how it works. Discipline is unnatural. Discipline, you've never seen a disciplined lion. Name me an animal that goes against what it wants to do in that moment and says,
We
you
are
know
not
what?
animals. We
I'm
are
not going.
human.
No, I'm just
We have
saying.
critical thinking.
I
That's why
think
you're
no, no.
supposed to be disciplined,
Discipline
not
is
act
what
like animals.
civilized human beings do, right?
You're missing a
Discipline.
point that I
The
was making, mine, because the
okay,
theme
go ahead.
of it had nothing to do with sex versus marriage. It had to do with the outcome that you guys complain about in terms of financial outcomes when getting divorced. So getting divorced, you're saying, oh, you got to pay alimony. You're losing all of these things because now it's all of these extra financial burdens that occur because of a divorce. My point was, so the idea is not to get married because of the divorce that is potentially waiting around the corner to take everything you got. But that's not a guarantee. Whereas you'll go and screw multiple women without protection, with knowing that the outcome could be that you will have a child, and child support is an actual guarantee in terms of losing finances. So you can't, So then the logical sense would be, if you was to align both of those things, I won't get married for fear of divorce and losing all of my financial standing. Then you would think that the same concept, the logic will be, I better not go screw a bunch of different women without protection, because I'm going to end up losing my financial standing because I'm going to have child
Yeah,
support. That's
I
the
understand.
point that I was correlating,
Yeah.
not what you saying
Oh,
about the.
I understand exactly what your point was. I'm just saying it's like having a favorite food, right? And some people they lactose intolerant, but they're like, I'm gonna eat this ice cream right now. I'm gonna eat this ice cream. I'm like, it's gonna kill me later, but I gotta eat this ice cream, right? There's nothing that tells you I'm like, oh man, I just want to get married so bad. Like, as that's just, it doesn't happen, right? Getting married is on a completely different plane than having sex. Having sex is like, yo, sometimes men they going to risk it. They going to risk it because
Maybe they should
biologically
say, I want to
we're
play
men,
that
and
child
women will
support
too.
so bad. Maybe that should be the focus. I'm looking forward to paying this child support
No,
so bad.
I completely agree. I think men should be judicious with who they pick to have babies with, who they pick to get married with. Absolutely, 1,000%. I'm just trying to articulate how you're fighting against something when it comes to choosing somebody to have sex with. Like, maybe your body's saying like, oh, she got a fat ass. God damn, like I want to have sex with her. But then you got to think, oh, she may not be a good person. It's like it's not like that with marriage. Like, marriage is something that's easy to avoid, right? You got to talk yourself into doing it.
Yeah, we got to get Naomi in
I'm
there
sorry, yeah.
and Pretty, and then True. Go ahead, Naomi.
You horrible, Mike.
Okay, so I do want to say a couple of things. One, I've noticed that the people who shame people who desire marriage is because they don't have access to one. That's one of my biggest things that I've noticed, especially on social media. People who shame people like, why do you want to get married? It's they're either bitter because they came out of a marriage, or they don't have access to be able to get into one again. Both on men's and women's side for different reasons. Then second, I did want to say, so from what I know, and I'm just speaking from things that, not really anecdotally, but things that I've learned and heard from men. In 2025, the reason why men don't want to risk marriage is because of the loss that'll come with it. And that's outside. I'm not even going to mention alimony, but even access to children. That's why men no longer want to be stepfathers. That's why, they don't want to have children either. But I must agree, they'll be able to jump into bed with somebody. But when it comes to like a marriage, the way that I see it is that majority of men are building, whether it's through owning a business, whether it's through owning a home, they're building and working toward the marriage. And if the woman is able to be at home with the children, he's going to lose half of what he put into it. Unless the man is much older, then that's a different concept. But when it comes down to access to like children or relationship or something along those lines, men are losing more than what women are in a marriage when it comes to the divorce part. And when it comes to that, you see it all the time where the child will end up going to live predominantly with the mother rather than with the father, and then he no longer has access equally to the child. And that's what a lot of men end up fighting for. You hear it time and time again, over and over again. That's that. But the last thing I'm going to say is that women spend about 1.5 years preparing for a wedding day. And I've said this before, and I've said it again, and I will say it again. Men spend thousands of dollars to prepare a prenup for a divorce, but nobody's actually spending time to prepare for a marriage. If you're going to prepare for a divorce or prepare for a wedding day, but nobody's going to prepare anymore for the marriage, that's why the longevity is ending. There's no more community. Nobody's teaching anybody how to communicate past the first 5 to 7 years, because that's usually when marriages end, is after the first 5 to 7 years. So you're putting all this other time and attention in other places, but you're not putting time and attention into coming back to what it is to be in a marriage. to communicate forward through longevity.